So we will call the meeting to order for the MPO Policy Committee meeting, February 11th, 2022. I'll just kind of say your name and you can introduce yourself and how you're representing the board. My name is Lisa Rich. I'm the Highway Director for Monroe County. Margaret?
I'm Margaret Clements. I'm the President of the County Plan Commission.
Steve?
Hi, Steve Olin from the Bloomington City Council.
Sarah?
Sarah Ryder-Band, Chair of the CAC.
Julie?
Julie Thomas, Monroe County Commissioner.
Nate?
Hello, Nate Nichols, City of Bloomington Public Works Department, and I'm a proxy for the Public Works Director.
Kate?
Kate Wiltz, Monroe County Council.
Doug?
Hi, Doug Horn with the Bloomington Public Transit Corporation Board of Directors.
Andrew?
I'm Andrew Seabor, serving as Mayor Hamilton's proxy.
Jillian?
The Vice Chair of the Plan Commission, the City Plan Commission, proxy for the chair.
Jason?
Good afternoon, Jason Bannock with Indiana University.
Chris?
Chris Coleman, representing NDOT, Seymour District.
I think that's all the board members. I'm not seeing Ellettsville represented. Did I miss any board members? Okay, seeing no hands raised, and then we have Ryan Clements, staff for MPO. Second item is approval.
I got a message from Pam Samples from Ellettsville. She's not feeling well, so she wasn't able to make it.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Second on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move approval of the agenda.
Have a motion?
Second.
And we have a second from Steve. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, Ryan, would you want to call a roll call?
Sure. And forgive me if I miss anyone, and if I do, please let me know. Ridge.
Yes.
Volan.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Ryder-Band.
Yes.
Nickel.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Seabor.
Yes.
Wallman.
Yes.
Clements.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody? I feel like I have. I guess not. So that is, oh wait, sorry. Did I miss anybody?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. That is 12-0.
Item number 3 is election of officers for calendar year 2022. The first would be nominations for chair.
I'd like to nominate Lisa Rich for chair.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations for chair?
I would like to propose Councilmember Steve Olin for chair.
Do we have a second for Nate's nomination, excuse me.
I'll second Nate's nomination.
And Ryan, I believe you have the bylaws. Do you know how we do this with 2 nominations?
I assume, did I hear that correctly, that we're just in item 3A for chair?
Correct.
And I didn't capture the seconds on either of those.
Okay, so Sarah nominated Lisa Ridge, and I believe it was it Julie seconded.
Jillian, actually. Sorry, I should have said my name.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And then Nate nominated Steve Boland for chair. And Jillian seconded that, I believe.
Yeah, sorry, I just said that wrong. I seconded Steve's, the nomination that Nate issued for Steve Volan. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. And what was the second for?
I did. Margaret Clements.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I suppose, Lisa, if there are no other nominations, of course there can be more, then we
Yes.
would go into a roll call vote of chair.
So would you do it by roll call, or is it each person to choose one of the nominations? Or do you have to go through each person and see how they vote?
Well, first, each person who is nominated is allowed to say something about whether or not they would like to be nominated and say why they would be a good chair.
Okay. Wow, putting us on the spot there. Are there any other nominations for chair at this point besides Lisa Ridge and Steve Boland? I am not seeing any. Steve, would you like to speak first?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I'd be happy to serve as chair. I served as parliamentarian of the City Council for actually 6 times, and I'm very familiar with rules of order. And lately, through no fault of your own, Madam Chair, I think that the meetings have gotten complicated, and the imperative is to have sort of a facility with managing rules that I think I could bring to the table. But I just want to say that I think you've served very well as chair. I do think that we could use a bit more structure in our meetings, but that's what I'm bringing to the table. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Wow. I have been honored and happy to serve the last few years that I have been chair of this board. I'm not going to say some meetings were a little bit more challenging than other meetings, but I think that we got through them. I think we got through them professionally. I am happy to serve as chair if I am nominated to the best ability that I can and do the best job that I can. I think even though I am the highway director for Monroe County, I think I remain very neutral on all projects. I support all projects, whether it be a city project, a state project, a county project, rural transit, or town of Ellettsville. I feel I was nominated to be on this board to represent Monroe County. However, I see the importance of all projects that are brought to the table and have always been happy to discuss these projects and what's best for the overall community. So yes, I would be happy to serve. If I do not win this nomination, I will be happy to serve under Steve as a board member and totally support if it's a new chair, a new vice chair, happy to support in any way that I can moving forward. Thank you.
I echo those sentiments too, by the way. Thank you.
So Ryan, do you want to do each person separately, or are you wanting just the board since it's a Zoom, it's a little bit more difficult of just asking who the person's vote is?
I think that's how we do it.
Do you want to call the roll, please?
Sure can. Let's see. All right, Boland.
I guess I'm voting for myself.
Sorry, you're
Yes,
first on the
Boland.
list.
Yeah.
Bannock.
Boland.
Ryder Band.
Ridge,
Nickel.
Steve Boland.
Kinsey,
Bolin,
Wiltz,
Ridge,
Horn,
Steve Boland,
Seaboard,
Mr. Boland,
Wallman, Wallman,
Sorry, can you hear me?
yes,
Hear me? I abstained.
Clements,
Ridge,
Thomas,
Ridge,
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 okay, that is 6 for Bolin, 5 for Ridge, and 1 abstention.
Question is that, is it a majority of those present or a majority of all members? Does a
I
vote
believe it
require
is a
6
simple
or 7?
majority for election of officers.
so I am to assume Steve will take it from here for the next vote for vice chair.
I think so. Okay,
Thank you
well,
so much, Lisa. It's been a pleasure working with you, and we'll
Thank you,
no
Brian.
doubt work together, you know, as long as we're both here. So
Thanks.
She's
much
not going
appreciated.
anywhere. She's not going anywhere.
Thank
I'd
you
like
too.
thank you. Thank you, Lisa Ridge, for your service. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and looking forward to working with you, because we're going to open up election of officers for vice chair. And I'd like to start by nominating Lisa Ridge for vice chair.
second.
That was
Jillian
Jillian Kinsey
Yep, sorry.
nominating as vice chair. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, is there, Lisa Ridge, would you like to say anything about being vice chair?
No, I totally support this board, and in any capacity that I can. I'd be happy to be your vice chair.
Thank you. Well, it's not it's our. All right, well, if there's no other discussion, we'll go to a roll call vote. Mr. Clemens, will you
yes.
please? No, I asked Mr. Clemens to call the roll.
I think there can be discussion. So if Ms.
Well,
Clements would like to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Clemens, did you have a?
I just misheard the name.
Oh, I see. No, we're going to the roll call vote then now.
Thank you.
Okay, Bannock,
Yes.
Ryder Band,
yes,
Nickel,
Yes.
Kinsey,
Yes,
Wiltz,
yes,
Horn,
yes.
Seaboard,
yes,
Wallman,
Yes.
Clements,
Yes.
Thomas,
yes,
Ridge,
Yes.
Bolin,
Yes.
thank you. That
Seems
is
like
12-0.
Very good. That's unanimous. We welcome
And thank
Lisa
you,
Ridge to be vice chair. Thank you, Ms. Ridge. Looking forward to serving with you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, we now move to approval of the minutes. Is there a motion for approval of minutes? Need a motion for approval of minutes.
I'll move approval of the October 8th, 2021 and January 14th, 2022 minutes.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Jillian Kinsey will second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion of the minutes?
Yes, Steve, forgive me. I was not in attendance at October 8. I was in attendance at January 14. The way the motion is structured, I guess I will abstain in that I cannot speak to the October 8 minutes.
Understandable. All right. Thanks for that notice. Any other discussion of the approval of minutes motion?
The same situation as Mr. Horn. I was not here for the October meeting, but was for the January meeting.
If either of you would like to split the motion, we can vote on them separately. Any other discussion on the motion? I can't see everybody on the screen, so actually, do we need to have the agenda on the screen still? Does everybody have it in front of them? Because that way it's easier for me to see all the people present. But seeing no other discussion, we can go to a roll call vote on the motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Clements, will you please?
I think everybody has capabilities to change how their video panel looks. So,
oh, my bad.
Anyway, yes, I can go into a roll call. Okay, Writer Band.
Yes.
Nickel.
Same.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Horn.
Abstain.
Seaboard.
Yes.
Wallman.
I think I have to abstain. I had to leave early last month.
Clements.
Yes.
Thomas.
Abstain.
Ridge.
Yes.
Volin.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Thank you. That is 804.
Very good. Those minutes are approved. We move now to communications from the chair. Well, hello, everybody. I'm pleased to be your new chair, and I hope that I can serve every constituency fairly and with equanimity. So I appreciate your patience as we go through this transition. Please I want everybody to know that my door is open, and if you have any questions at all, I'm happy to talk with you about MPO matters. That's all I have. Let's move now to reports from officers and committees. Let's start with the let's start with the Vice Chair, Ms. Ridge. Do you have anything to report?
I do not.
Okay. Let's move now to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Yeah, the CAC met. We weren't able to get to the traffic study portion of our agenda. So it's supporting staff working with INDOT and getting them to a planning and engineering request, looking at the potential need for additional traffic studies to be done in the bounds of the corridors of 45 and 46. We don't believe anything else needs to be done at this point, and that the staff has already done everything in its purview to address the issue. And that's about it. We talked a lot about the meaning of studies and how one gets about having it achieved. And it's now part of the, as we'll see, the MPO 101. And that's about it for the CAC.
Very good. Any questions for the CAC report? If so, please use the raise hand function. If not, we'll move on to the Technical Advisory Committee. Is there a report?
Yep, this is Nate Nickel, and just wanted to report that the TAC met last month, and I was elected as the chair, and Paul Satterley from Monroe County Highway Department is the 2022 vice chair. And the TAC had a pretty in-depth discussion about the INDOT 2022 Safety Target Declaration, and it's on our agenda for later. We just had some concerns with the language and some of the specific goals, how they were laid out in the documents. I can certainly report when we get to that agenda item. But outside of that, election of officers was our big task last week.
Very good. Any questions for the TAC report? See none, we'll move on to reports from MPO staff. Item A under this section of the agenda is MPO 101. Mr. Clemens or Mr. Martin, who'd like to present this?
I'm really sorry I was on mute there. Happens to the best of us. Anyway, Pat is on vacation at the moment, so I'll be happy to present on this. MPO 101, as you know, was presented at the January Policy Committee meeting, and it is represented here to all today, just in case there were new Policy Committee members. And from what I can tell, we don't have any new Policy Committee members. So I'm not going to go too far into depth into this, except for mention a little bit about what Sarah was talking about within MPO 101. What we didn't mention at the last meeting, in addition to all these resources that we have here at the back of MPO 101, is that if any local public agency or any concerned citizen or anybody on the policy committee would like to make a direct or would like to direct a concern or a request, or would like to find an answer to an issue, there are all of these outlets that one can use. I'm sorry that Lisa's email is still incorrect on this, and this will still be changed. But the main thing is that if you have an issue or a constituent has an issue about a particular roadway, it doesn't even have to fall within our MPO's purview. That citizen or committee or council member can make a request to by either calling these numbers or emailing, or INDOT has one for themselves. They have a toll-free number, they have an email address, you can mail them letters, but they also have what is really great, a customer service portal in which you can write any requests or concerns or questions to find answers, and they get back to you fairly immediately on those. So I just wanted to show in here again that MPO 101 resources, we have added this page for everyone's convenience. But yeah, if there's any other additional questions for MPO 101, I know we went over this last month, but I'd be happy to take any more if there are. If not, our door is always open. You can always request individual meetings with either myself or Pat Martin.
Okay, are there any questions for MPO staff. I see Commissioner Thomas has raised her hand.
Actually, I just want to see if we can get Kate Wills back in to the meeting.
Oh, I think I did let her back in.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay, yeah, thanks.
I don't see her in the list,
Let me check again. Let's see.
but she also isn't requesting to get in.
I don't see her in the waiting room, but she did try to join the meeting about 5 minutes ago, and I let her back in.
We'll keep an eye out for her.
Yes, please do.
Any other questions for staff on MPO 101? Seeing none, let's move to the second item for MPO staff, fiscal year 22-26 tip approval letter. Mr.
Sure,
Clements,
yes.
please go ahead.
So also, as I mentioned at the last meeting, NDOT, Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration has approved our fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program, and that we're still operating under the 2020-2024 Transportation Improvement Program until NDOT's STIP review process is completed. This topic is just here because we have a letter now to present to you, and here it is from Commissioner McGinnis. And also, just as a reminder, that the public review period on the statewide transportation improvement program ends on February 16th. So if you or any of your constituents would like to be involved, you can find information about how to be involved in the statewide transportation improvement program, or STIP. You can find that information on our MPO website, or you can find a link to it in the previous meeting's minutes.
Okay, thank you for that report. Are there any questions on this item? Mr. Seabour.
Thank you. I guess maybe you said this, but just I'm not super smart, but just what does this letter mean? It's a little confusing that they're telling us our new TIP is approved, but that it is not yet referenced in there. Can you just help us make sense of what this really mean? And I'll just note that I have personally reached out to the person they suggest reaching out to multiple times over the last couple months and have yet to hear a response. So I'm just trying to make sense of what all of this means.
Sure, yes. And I will fully agree with you that it is pretty confusing. So last year, as you may recall, we went through a really big process to develop our new TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, with a call for projects. We have new projects and updated projects and costs within different fiscal years. And so our 22-26 TIP has been passed and approved by NDOT, Federal Highway, Federal Transit. But what they're telling us is that only fiscal years 22 and 23 are the funds, the planning funds are available in 22 and 23. Even though, well, and I should back up, fiscal years 22 and 23 from our 2020 to 2024 TIP. And that is what we're going to be using until maybe next month when the STIP is approved. So I apologize if it's confusing, because it is. And if you want to work with us individually, we're more than happy to do that. Because yeah, it's been a process that has taken too long, and that we couldn't foresee any of this happening. And we, as the MPO, we know it's very inconvenient, especially for planning purposes, and perhaps for other LPA projects. But unfortunately, this is kind of what we have at the moment until NDOT gives us the go-ahead to move forward with our new 22 to 26 TIP. confusing, but I hope that's helpful.
That is helpful, and I guess hearing that maybe next month that hopefully will be all in place.
Yes, and we will be sure to keep you apprised of that exactly when it happens.
Great. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Mr. Clemens, just to follow up on that, does that mean that this letter is sort of a temporary approval letter?
Well, it is an approval letter that will essentially become current, even though it is dated a month ago today. It's current when NDOT approves their statewide transportation improvement program.
Okay.
So like I said, it's not very convenient.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry, if we get another letter, we will certainly let you know. But our TIP is approved when the STIP is approved, pretty much. That's the easy way to look at it.
Any other questions from MPO committee members, policy committee members? Seeing none, we'll move on. We have no items for old business. Let's move on to items for new business. The BMC MPO Public Participation Plan. Who's presenting this, Mr. Clemens?
Okay, thank you. Yes. So the TAC and the CAC at their last meeting has approved this plan for recommendation to the policy committee. As you can see, the last time that this plan was amended was in March of 2011, about 11 years ago. 11 seems to be a theme of this meeting. So anyway, so we realized that and wanted to make sure that this document is current, as within the document, it says that it must be periodically updated, but it doesn't say in it what periodically means. So in this case, periodically means 11 years later. And we thought that it just needed a little bit of modernization to it. And I mean, also probably within MPO 101, several people may not have seen this document before. So I'll briefly go over the important points of this, mainly the goals and the mission and that kind of thing. So the plan is essentially developed using the FAST Act, which is our current our federal transportation bill. So the plan is, well, the FAST Act and our BMC MPO General Goals, and I'll read this just so everybody can hear it in case you can't see it, are to provide adequate public notice and time for public review and comment at key decision points, demonstrate explicit consideration and response to public input received, seek out the needs and input of the public who typically are underserved by existing transportation systems, provide periodic reviews of the public involvement process and participation plan in terms of their effectiveness, coordinate to the maximum extent practical with statewide public involvement processes, educate and raise awareness within the metropolitan planning area, the MPA boundary, about current and future transportation needs, encourage broad public participation from all sectors of the community, and provide the community with adequate opportunities to participate in the decision-making process, and foster a sense of ownership toward the transportation planning process and the resulting projects within the community. And also, the public participation mission statement is the BMC MPO is committed to providing Monroe County, the town of Ellettsville, and the city of Bloomington with quality transportation planning programs and services, as well as working to provide access to an efficient and safe transportation system for all citizens. Toward this goal, the BMC MPO shall be committed to promoting the environmental justice principles in all of its programs and policies as prescribed by the governing environmental justice policy statement, working continuously to ensure the full and fair participation of all affected communities in the transportation planning process, and providing an equitable distribution of transportation infrastructure affecting public and environmental health, as well as to the development of a just public transit system. So the rest of this plan here within the policy essentially states how that is to be done. So I'm not going to necessarily go into all the minutia of what is in this plan, but all of what is in here is about how we administratively do it and how each committee and or what each committee and what the staff is supposed to do with regards to this plan, about how the plan can be changed, general provisions, and let's see. So let's see, I mentioned environmental justice principles earlier. Those principles are making environmental justice a priority, increase meaningful public participation, maintaining project flexibility, promoting project equity, utilizing rigorous demographic analysis within our plans, and developing effective conflict resolution methods. So with all that being said, this is really the plan, just in a couple of pages. It mentions what the policy committee does, TAC and CAC, and about how the MPO is structured, how we outreach to the public and media for their participation, as well as how we access individuals with the disabilities. And within this plan is every way that you can get in touch with the MPO. Okay, also, within this document, it describes our major plans. Metropolitan Transportation Plan, also known as the Long Range Transportation Plan, the Transportation Improvement Program, as mentioned earlier, as well as the Unified Planning Work Program, which we'll be working on in the next couple of months, which you will see here shortly. March, April, May is typically the process or the time frame for that. So these are our three main planning documents that the MPO works on and requires public participation for. And then our final appendix is our electronic meetings policy, our adoption resolution 2022-01 from last year. And that is pretty much it for the public participation plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions about it, if there are any.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Clements on, I see Commissioner Thomas. Please
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I am concerned because I sent an email, I believe it was to Pat, asking for a red line version so we could see what changed between the last version and this proposed version, and I did not receive that. So I think that would be necessary for me to even consider this at this point. Thank you.
Yes, Pat is on vacation, so I did not know about that. But essentially what has changed is really just updating it to the FAST Act, because in the past it mentioned our current federal bill, which was Safety Lieu, which I'm not sure if I can even mention what that stands for anymore, and fixing some typos, and that's more or less what has changed in this document. So to answer your question, Commissioner Thomas, pretty much nothing has changed unless you want a red line document showing where a comma was added, for example.
Okay, and I have no way of knowing who's on vacation. I did not get an email response that said so-and-so's on vacation. So I had no idea. I just, I would like to see a red line version. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Mr. Clemens, what do you think is the appropriate course of action here? I mean, is this something you're asking for approval of today?
Correct.
Well, if that's going to be the case and somebody needs to make a motion to approve it, I see member Ryderband. Ms. Ryderband, go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing that isn't included that the CAC spoke about back when we reviewed this document was the fact that there really is nothing in here about how one deals with public participation when the public is limited in participation. The pandemic has shown us in so many ways the limitations of public participation, and in some respects, it's perhaps gotten better because we can all do this from home, but I still think that a public participation policy needs to address how we interact with the public when the public can't interact with us.
Mr. Clements, before you answer that, could you please allow Ms. Wiltz to be a co-host again?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry about that.
Ms. Wiltz, can you?
She should have the capabilities now.
All right. If you could answer Ms. Ryderband.
Yes. So did not mention, but I really should, especially because this is probably the first time that this policy committee has seen this, is that this document has really no time frame for being updated. So what that means is that we don't have a deadline for when this needs to be passed. So if any member would like to make additional suggestions to what should be included in this, we're all for it, because the idea is that we want our public to be as involved as they can, whether it be them accessing us or vice versa. So from a staff perspective, we are all for pushing this down the line if the policy committee or either of the other committees still wishes to do so.
I see Mr. Seabor's hand raised.
I think Mr. Clemens just answered my question, but my question was essentially, do we need to take action on this today, or can it be deferred? And honestly, Commissioner Thomas's initial point, just as reviewing the packet, I was curious as well, like what has changed? So some type of documentation of that would be helpful. So if it doesn't need to be approved today, I personally would be okay with deferring action if that's possible.
Yes.
Well, it's on the table, so we either need a motion to approve or a motion to postpone. If someone would like to make either motion.
I move to postpone action on this public participation plan until everyone has been able to review the changes and suggest any new changes that may need to be made.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The motion does, though, need to be to a specific date. So if you want to suggest the March meeting or the April meeting, I think that would make the motion appropriate. Ms. Ryderband?
Until the May meeting.
Is there a second?
Second, Thomas.
We have a motion and a second. Who is the seconder? I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Julie Thomas.
Commissioner Thomas. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, if we can have a roll call vote on the motion to postpone.
I see.
Oh, wait, so I'm sorry. I
Mr.
see
Horn.
Mr. Horn's raised his hand. Mr.
Yeah,
Horn.
Thank you. I found the icon. Just a procedural question. If we do change the document, does it need to then go back into the CAC process before we can approve it, or are the changes that the policy committee makes able to be acted on relatively quickly?
That's a good question. Yes, every document has to be reviewed by the CAC and the TAC first. So if there are additions or edits to any plan, including this one, they have to go through those two committees first.
Mr. Horn.
Thank you. So the changes that that Sarah is concerned about, potential changes. Sarah, did the CAC have an opportunity to offer concern when you reviewed it before we've seen it here?
We spoke at length about things that we thought were missing, and we did not fashion the amendments or changes to this document. And I don't know if the TAC seriously looked at this document, but I'm hearing that there are members of this committee who wish to see what changes have been made. And I think maybe once they've looked at it, they may also have concerns. What that means is that if I've proposed postponement until our May meeting, that gives us both March and April for the TAC and CAC to suggest changes, for anyone on this policy committee to suggest changes, for the public to suggest changes to this document. And since there is no time limit on when this needs to be done, I think it seems more than adequate time for a public participation to occur. Thank you.
Well, please understand, I wasn't being critical. This is my second meeting. I'm learning as I go. I appreciate your instruction on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Further questions on the motion to postpone or comments? Seeing none, Mr. Clements, will you please call the roll on the motion?
Sure. Nickel.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Seymour.
Yes.
Clements.
Yes.
Sorry, I missed Wallman.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Ridge.
Yes.
Bowen.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Ryderband.
Yes.
Thank you. That is 12-0.
Very good. That motion to
I'd like
postpone is
provide any
approved.
comments to MPO staff about this document, please do so. We're willing to sit down and talk about it and take comments about it anytime you're free.
So noted. Thank you for that.
Yes,
Let's
thank
move
you
on to
for us taking a look at it.
Sure. Let's move on to the next item, the INDOT 2022 PM1 Safety Target Declaration. Who is presenting this, Mr. Clements?
Again. Okay, as with every year, INDOT comes out with what is called their Safety Target Declaration. And what this essentially means is that INDOT sets a number of fatalities and injuries across the state that they would like to stay under that a number for there not to be additional highway safety improvement program penalties. And before I go into this, I want to mention that the Mpo staff fully agrees with the CAC and the TAC that no fatality or injury is acceptable on our roadways, and thus that number 0 should be the number that we target. But alas, NDOT says the number of fatalities that they're targeting or trying to not pass that threshold of is 876. The rate of fatalities is 1.076 per million roadway users, I believe that is. The number of suspected serious injuries to 2,998, and the rate of suspected to be 3.675 per million roadway users, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries at 344, or I'll round up 345, because in my opinion, none of these are necessarily acceptable, but this is a mandatory, this document has to be approved, and it's mandatory to approve this by February 28th of this month, or we can make our own, which is an option, but an extremely arduous process. So I think if Nate is okay with it, I would like for him to read what the TAC's response is to this, as that is what staff fully agree with as well.
Mr. Nickel?
Sure, thanks, Ryan. So as I mentioned before, TAC had a pretty in-depth discussion on this. So we came up with essentially that the TAC has concerns with the specific language that NDOT utilized to create these 5-year averages for performance targets. And the Technical Advisory Committee believes that fatalities and serious injuries that result from crashes on public roadways can and should be prevented. It's felt that 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries are more appropriate performance targets for NDOT and all Indiana MPOs to pursue. However, the TAC does understand that NDOT safety performance targets are intended to convey really only an incremental change towards safer streets and are not the ultimate goal. So with this background, the TAC recommends that the policy committee adopt the NDOT 2022 safety target declaration.
All right, does that conclude the presentation, Mr. Clemens?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, let's open the question up to committee members. I see Member Wiltz, Councilmember Wiltz.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to make it clear that I support approving this document for exactly the reasons that you're saying are, you know, the things you're noting. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I remember a lengthy discussion about how in the world we could be targeting these numbers when we don't really want to view them as targets. They're more like limits, if anything. So I appreciate the openness with which you presented that, and I'm just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Ms. Reiterband. Committee Member Reiterband, did you have something to, and a question to ask?
So I'm echoing what we've just heard from Ms. Wiltz, and adding, for those of you who have not been present on this policy committee, that we've had not only lengthy discussions about the fact that we'd like this to be a Vision Zero community, but that in the past we've tried to change it from fatalities equal to less than in our document, and have been told that that does not play in the world of INDOT and the federal government. So while these are ugly numbers, the question I would have for Ryan is, can you tell us what the numbers were in our previous targets so that we can see if there has been an improvement in where we're headed with these numbers?
Yes,
That
that's
was
a
my
good
question too, Mr. Clemens. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good question. These numbers, these 5 numbers that you see presented here are all lower than they have been in previous years. So that does suggest a step in the right direction. However, these numbers are still, in my opinion, very high. But I was pleased to see, I want to say it was earlier this week, Monday or Tuesday maybe, that it looks like the federal government has, I think under Secretary Buttigieg has at least said that they're going in the way of Vision Zero. So hopefully by next year, we may not be talking about a document that looks like this that we're required to pass. We might be seeing one that actually does say 0 on it, which I know is all of our hopes.
Further questions? I would like to ask Mr. Clemens, could we get a compilation, even though I think we have to approve this now, for a future meeting, perhaps in March, could we get a table that shows the history of these numbers as far back as you can easily find?
Yeah, I'd be happy to put that together. That I think would be really interesting.
I agree.
So I'll put that together and I'll probably include it in an upcoming crash report.
Good. Well, as long as you can point it out to us at an upcoming meeting, that would be much appreciated.
Absolutely. Sure.
Any further questions?
I'd like to move approval of the INDOT 2022 PMI safety targets.
I'll second.
It's the PM1 declaration, I believe. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Will Mr. Clemens please call the roll?
Sure. May I get who seconded that again, please?
I believe Jillian Kinsey did.
Yep.
Thank you.
Don't you, Mr. Chair, don't you need to ask the public that may be present if they have any comment
I'm terribly
on the motion?
sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to this item? Please use the raise hand function in Zoom or type into the chat. Going once. Going twice. All right, that ends public comment on this item. If there's no further motions, will Mr. Clemens please call the roll?
Sure. Kinsey.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Seaboard.
Yes.
Wallman. Wallman.
Yes.
Clements.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Ridge.
Ridge left.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Volan.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Ryder Band.
Yes.
Nickel.
Yes.
Thank you. That is 11-0.
Thank you. That item passes unanimously. Let's move on to item C under new business.
Okay, this next one is,
Well, I think we need to move it first. Is there a motion to introduce?
We've never required a motion to introduce.
Then I'll, thank you, appreciate that. I'll leave it to Mr. Clemens to present it.
okay, thank you. And yes, Sarah is correct on that. This is an Indiana Department of Transportation Improvement Program amendment with the project of ADA sidewalk ramp construction at the intersection of State Route 46, 3rd Street and College Mall Road. And they are requesting this project for this fiscal year 2022, using National Highway Priority funding in the amount of $321,149. And this project, we believe, is exactly what it says, where they're trying to increase safety for one of our largest and busiest intersections in town, and especially for those with disabilities.
Is that the totality of your presentation?
Yes, I mean, I would open the floor to Chris Wallman if he has any more insight about this project, but if not, then yes.
Let's go to Mr. Wallman from MnDOT. Mr. Wallman, I think I'm hearing a feedback and noise. Could somebody please mute? All right, Mr. Wallman.
Well, happy to help out. This project is primarily upgrading our pedestrian facilities or curb ramps at this busy intersection, getting those all up to standards, current ADA standards, push button, ped heads, and that's just a general all update of this intersection for pedestrian facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's open up to questions from members. I see Ms. Reiterband has raised her hand.
Yes, thank you. There were a number of questions at the CAC meeting about this project, and while I see that it's an attempt to comply with the newer ADA standards, we do know that this is, as was stated, a very busy and difficult intersection for pedestrians, bicyclists, anyone with a disability. It's large, and I'm wondering, are we lowering the push buttons? Are we making it any easier for people to cross? Will the ramps be both at any kind of island, little triangles where the turning is occurring? Can you give us anything more than the fact that we're changing the angle of the ramps?
The overall geometry will stay quite similar to the way it is now. But all the ramps and the grades for the ramps, all the detectable warning will be incorporated into the new ramps. The pedestrian, the push buttons, that's been a change lately to where we're really making sure those are at the right level, the right height, the right distance, so people can easily access those buttons so they can, call that signal. So.
Ms. Reiterband, did you have further questions?
No, it seems that it's just kind of bringing it up to current standards, but I still have concerns about that intersection and how someone with any kind of disability can cross it safely.
Thank you. I see Ms. Kinsey's raised her hand.
Yes, I have two questions, if I might. The first is about how this project was initiated. I see that it is identified as a project request form, but I wonder if someone could elaborate on how it came to be requested, who made the request. Is it part of a normal review process, or was it a special request? And then second, what's the timeline for this? If it's, it sounds like it's going to happen quickly, but not so much when, but how long, what's the proposed length of the time that this intersection will be under construction?
Okay, we have certain funds set aside at NDOT for upgrading ADA facilities. So we have an ADA program to target high volume or low areas that need brought up to standards. So this was an area that's identified by our district traffic staff, and that's how that got programmed. And so these types of projects are limited in scope to try to just get things up to standards. The letting date on this, I believe, is in March. So this request for the tip amendment, I think, went in November, and we missed a meeting there with December. So we're getting kind of close to hit our letting to get this approved. But the construction would be this summer, late spring, summer, and would likely wrap up before school, so we could avoid the rush of students.
Ms. Kinsey, go ahead.
Thank you. Helps.
I'd like to move approval of this tip amendment.
I'm sorry, we have another question. Ms. Wiltz?
Yes, pardon me, I was slow on the hand raising. I noticed that it said that it did not need a complete streets review. And could someone who just knows more about this tell me what the rationale is with that?
NDOT projects don't require.
Is that what it is? Because it's NDOT?
Our complete streets policy does not apply to NDOT.
Got it. That's exactly what I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Waldman. If the MPO was concerned about, I mean, this is simply, would you call this an upgrade? I guess is the best, just a repair of an intersection.
It's more of a repair, maintenance, bring things up to standard, not a redo of the intersection, so to speak. Okay.
And if the MPO were interested in some kind of re-examination of the design of the intersection, what would you advise the MPO as its best course of action?
We'd have to look at that where it fits in with the, if you're looking to partner with NDOT on that, we have to look where the roadway condition fits in with our 20-year plan, and where would be a good time to make some more substantive changes to the geometry of that intersection. So
okay, thank you.
Our 20-year plan, I think, online. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, let's now go to the, oh, I see another question, Ms. Reiterbrand.
In answer to your inquiry, Mr. Folan, I would suggest that the last part of the new improved MPO 101, where it instructs you where to go if you want to make changes, any improvements in the highways, would be a good place. So in this case, it would be going to NDOT for you, and that portal will get you very prompt responses from NDOT. Otherwise, I again move for approval of this NDOT amendment to our tip.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Jillian Kinsey, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Will Mr. Clemens please call the roll?
You need to ask for public comment, Chair.
Is there any public comment on this motion? Second call. Final call for public comment. Seeing none, is there any final discussion on the motion? Final call for discussion. Mr. Clements, will you please call the roll?
Wilkes,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Seaboard,
Yes.
Wallman,
Yes.
Clements,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Bowen,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Ryderband,
Yes.
Nickel,
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Thank you. That is 11-0.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We move now on to public comment on matters not included on the agenda. These are non-voting items. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on an item that was not on today's agenda? You'll have 5 minutes. Please use the raise hand function in Zoom or type into the chat. Second call for public comment. Final call. Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to communications from committee members on matters not included on today's agenda. Are there any communications from members? I see Commissioner Thomas.
Yes, thanks so much. I just wanted to bring everyone's attention to the fact that the Monroe County Board of Commissioners on February 2nd sent a letter to INDOT, and this is regarding the 4546 bypass, State Road 45, State Road 46, State Road 446 corridor area. We have specifically asked INDOT to consider a number of studies, including traffic volume, traffic control device, traffic access and impact, and travel demand forecast modeling for that area. So I just wanted to raise that so everyone is aware that we have done that. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Member Ryderband.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in addition to that letter, which I would like to see in a future packet, I would also like to see the one that our staff has sent to INDOT pertaining to the same area, since it said in our January minutes that the Mpo staff was going to send such a letter. I would like both of those things shown to us in our March meeting. I think it's important for us to understand and for us all to be on the same page. In addition, I would like for the policy committee to review the bylaws. It's come to our attention that there are some interesting pieces in the bylaws that were passed in 2 years ago that may be questionable. So I would like another review of our bylaws.
Thank you for that. Any further reports from or communications from members of the policy committee? Final call. I think we've already moved on to topic suggestions for future agendas. Ms. Ryderband has suggested including both letters that she just mentioned, as well as the bylaws. Are there any other suggestions for future agendas from members? Seeing none, we'll move on to notices of upcoming meetings. I'm just going to read them if that's appropriate. The Citizens Advisory Committee meets February 23rd virtually at 6:30 p.m. The Technical Advisory Committee meets the same day at 10 a.m. virtually. And the next meeting of this committee, the Policy Committee, will be March 11th at 1:30 p.m., either virtual or hybrid, depending on the governor's executive orders. Are there any other further announcements? Because if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Need a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. So second from Ms. Wiltz. With that, I believe we are adjourned. Thank you all, and we'll see you on March 11th.